Around the year 1550, a Spanish friar in Mexico wrote down something the locals kept telling him. At night, they said, a woman in white walks the streets, weeping, crying out for children who are already gone. He thought he was recording a dying superstition. He had no idea he was writing down the opening line of a story that would outlive the Aztec Empire, outlive the Spanish Empire, cross an entire continent, and in 2027, get a Hollywood sequel with a budget bigger than that friar could have imagined in 1,000 lifetimes. Every kid in Mexico grows up swearing these stories are true, that they happened here, in their town. So here's the question we're actually going to answer tonight. Not, are they real? We know the answer to that. The real question is, where did they actually come from? And how did the same 4 ghosts end up haunting every town in the country? There's a podcast I keep coming back to, a Mexican show from 2018, where the hosts did an episode just on this, their own homegrown horror. La Llorona, El Charro Negro, the woman who danced with the devil, El Curro. And they said something, almost as a throwaway, that turned out to be exactly right. They said, every one of these legends had to be born somewhere, and then it spread, mouth to mouth, until every town tells the same story as if it happened to them. They were right. They just didn't have the receipts. We do. Because here's what nobody told them in 2018, and what almost nobody tells you in English at all. La Llorona isn't really a sad Mexican mom. Underneath her is an Aztec goddess, Cihuacoatl, written down by that friar, Bernardino de Sahagún, around 1550, as one of the omens that supposedly warned the Aztecs their world was about to end. That's the bottom of the well. The ghost, called El Curro, the well-dressed gentleman who haunts a little mining town in Chihuahua, he has a name. A real one, according to the Mexican press. And his old house isn't the legend you whisper about. It's open to the public. You can take the tour. And the woman who danced with the devil, the one the hosts swore happened in their city, is the exact same story told in Tijuana, in Durango, in Ciudad Juarez, and in cities all the way down in Colombia. Same dance, same devil, same goat's foot. Different town every time. So that's the deal with this video. We're not going to tell you 4 ghost stories. We're going to show you where each one was born, how it traveled, and how 500 years later, these legends are still alive, and honestly, still making people money. This is the part the campfire version always leaves out. Let's start at the bottom, with La Llorona, the weeping woman. You know the version. A mother drowns her own children, then dies, and now her ghost wanders the water at night, crying, "Ay, mis hijos, oh my children." The podcast told it as a woman named Maria in Guanajuato in the south of the country. 2 small things first. There's no historical Maria, and Guanajuato isn't in the south. It's smack in the center of Mexico. Easy slip. But here's the big one. Long before any Maria, the Aztecs had a goddess named Cihuacoatl, the serpent woman, who, the codices say, walked at night, dressed in white, weeping. And in the Florentine Codex, there's this chilling detail. One of the omens that supposedly warned the Aztecs the Spanish were coming was a woman's voice in the dark, crying out, "My children, we have to go now." Now, I want to be honest with you. Because this channel doesn't do fairy tale history. Scholars argue about how directly Siwakoa became La Llorona. It's more of a layered inheritance than a clean line. But the bones are real, and they're 5 centuries deep. And here's why she felt familiar to the Spanish, too. Because they already had her. A weeping woman in white shows up all over Europe. The German White Lady, printed back in 1486. The Irish Banshee, whose cry means death is coming. The Greek myths of Medea and Lamia, mothers and their lost children. So when 2 worlds collided in Mexico, the Aztec goddess and the European ghost kind of fused. Fast forward to 1968. A folklorist named Bess Lomax Hawes is interviewing teenage girls locked up in a juvenile hall in Los Angeles, and they're telling her, dead serious, that they've seen La Llorona near the drainage canals. That's the thing about this woman. She doesn't stay in a book. She keeps showing up in every generation, wherever there's water and somebody's afraid. Okay, second legend. And now the pattern starts to show. El Charro Negro, the black horseman. The podcast told it from a mountain cantina in Guerrero. A man dressed all in black pays for everything with gold coins, and when he rides off, he leaves behind horse droppings that reek of sulfur on a horse with burning red eyes. Spooky. But ask the historians what he is, and you get something more interesting. He's the devil's treasurer. A greedy man, condemned after death to collect the debts of everyone who ever made a pact with the devil for money. He's a colonial invention, born when indigenous beliefs and European Christianity got mashed together during the conquest. Quick honesty check, because the loud version gets this wrong. He's most strongly tied to Jalisco in the Center-West, not specifically the North. But hold on to that idea. Sudden wealth and the price you pay for it. Because we're about to see the exact same fear wearing a different costume. Third one, and this is my favorite, because it's where you can literally watch a legend travel. The story. A girl goes out dancing. The most beautiful man in the place asks her to dance. Perfect. Charming. Too perfect. And then someone looks down and sees it. Instead of feet, he has the foot of a goat and the foot of a rooster. The devil. The girl is found dead in a ring of ashes. The podcast swore this happened in their own city, a bar called El Ruidoso in Chihuahua. And here's the wild part. A Chihuahua newspaper actually traced their version to the 1990s in a venue that's now, I'm not making this up, government tax offices. The Inegi building. But the most documented version isn't even from Chihuahua. It's from Tijuana, a bar called the Aloha on Avenida Revolucion, written down by a local chronicler named Olga Vicenta Diaz Castro. And then, the same exact story turns up claimed by Durango, by Hermosillo, by Ciudad Juarez, and by cities all the way down in Colombia, Cali, Medellin. Same dance, same goat's foot. Every town certain it was theirs. That's not a haunting. That's a legend doing what legends do. And the podcast hosts, back in 2018, guessed it. They just couldn't prove it. Now you can see the whole map light up. Last legend, and this is where folklore turns into a receipt. El Curro. In a little mining town in Chihuahua called Santa Eulalia, people say a well-dressed gentleman, a Catrine, frock coat and top hat, stops travelers at night near the train tracks, asks them for a favor, and guards a buried treasure in the hills. The podcast called him a guy dressed like a gentleman from the 1800s. No name, no date. But the Mexican press dug it up. According to those accounts, the legend points to a real man, Erasmo Núñez, a European adventurer who came to New Spain in 1735 and got rich off Santa Eulalia's silver. This town had something like 300 mines, so he's not from the 1800s. He's a century older, straight out of the silver boom. And do you see it now? Same fear as the Charro Negro, sudden mining wealth, and a man who can't rest because of it. But here's the kicker. The most now thing in this whole video. El Curro's old house? It's still standing, and it's been turned into a haunted house attraction, the Casa del Curro, the House of Terror, with a little paranormal museum and guided tours run by the owner, a man named Rogelio Varela, right next to a place called the House of the UFOs. The ghost has his own tour. And as recently as Easter 2025, Santa Eulalia's ghost tourism was drawing growing crowds. The legend the podcast told as a campfire story in 2018? Today, it runs guided tours. So step back and look at the four of them together, which is the thing the original episode never quite did. They're not four random ghosts. They're two fears wearing four costumes. One is about money, the silver that built northern Mexico, and the quiet belief that wealth that comes too fast must have been paid for with your soul. That's El Curro. That's the Charro Negro. The other is about women, night, and water. The mother who lost her children, the girl who trusted the wrong man. La Llorona, the devil's dance. Same anxieties, told and retold for 500 years in every plaza, until they stopped feeling like history and started feeling like yours. And here's the part that honestly gives me chills more than any goat's foot. These legends never died. They leveled up. La Llorona, that Aztec goddess a friar scribbled down around 1550, became a Hollywood horror movie in 2019 that made $123 million on a $9 million budget. And right now, as you're watching this, the sequel, The Revenge of La Llorona, is already shot. It's sitting in post-production, with a theatrical release announced for April 2027. Think about that journey. From an omen meant to warn the Aztecs their world was ending, to a friar's notebook, to 1,000 mothers scaring 1,000 kids away from the river, to a teenager in a Los Angeles detention center in 1968 swearing she saw her, to a multiplex near you. The podcast hosts said every legend is born somewhere, and then it travels. They were right. They just didn't realize how far these four had already gone. Or that they're still going. So no, I can't tell you a ghost is real. But I can tell you something I think is stranger. That a fear born 500 years ago is still strong enough to fill movie theaters and pack ghost tours and make a kid in 2026 check over their shoulder near the water. These four didn't survive because they're true. They survived because they're useful. They carry our oldest fears about money and loss and trusting the wrong stranger, and they hand those fears down, town to town, generation to generation. That little podcast got the most important thing right. Every one of them was born somewhere. We just got to show you where. Tell me in the comments, which of these four did you grow up with? Which one did your abuela swear happened in your town? Because I'd bet money it happened in a dozen others too. If you want more of this, the real history hiding inside the stories we tell in the dark, you know what to do. We've got a whole map left to light up. The Unwritten.